All right, that was BBD Poison. Now, I cannot tell you that I know all of the events surrounding the death of Casey Goodson, a young man who was murdered by the police in Columbus, Ohio. I can tell you that it sounds all too familiar. I can tell you that a young man, a young black man who had a right to carry a weapon, who was certified to carry one, was murdered by a group of police officers looking for criminals in the area. I can tell you that he was not one of the people that they were looking for. I can tell you that at the time of his death, he had a Subway sandwich in his hand, and his keys were in an apartment door. So I don't know how exactly big a threat you can be with a Subway sandwich in one hand or keys in the other. But I can tell you what sounds familiar. I can tell you the fact that he was unarmed when they found him, and the fact that they've subsequently let us know that he did have license to carry a gun. It could have, means that they've investigated the person who was shot. We know more about the person who was shot more than we do the shooter. And that will be a pattern that we continue, because in America, a black person who has been killed unarmed is never innocent. He's always guilty, waiting to happen. And over the next course of the next few days or weeks, we will learn a lot about him. We will learn a lot about how he went to school and how he grew up and if he had any trouble at all. We will learn a lot about if he was on drugs or if he had marijuana in his system. We will learn so much about him, because the attempt will be to make him complicit in his own murder. You know what we won't learn? Anything about the police officer that killed him. Nothing. Nothing. Because in America, black dead people bring it on themselves. Black dead people, even though they're unarmed, even though they have sandwiches in their hand, and keys in the door, are always a threat. And even if it wasn't you this time, it was you. You did something and got away with it. Because there is a such thing that is never associated with black people. That is grace or innocence. You did it. We just didn't catch you did. We know we're doing it. We know what kind of person you are. You will hear versions of it from the police department. You will hear versions of it on the internet. You will hear versions of it from elected officials, who will always say that the policemen are going to be given the benefit. You will also hear, what you will hear also is for calls for us to be calm, for not to rush for justice, to let justice take its course. You will hear people say, we're praying for the families. You will hear people say, we're going to do all that we can to make this transparent. And you will also hear some of the same things we always have. Why is it that a task force who's supposedly looking for violent criminals has no video recorders? Why is it they have none? If they know that there's a potential for a violent interaction, why wouldn't they have one, particularly given what has gone on in the last year between Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor? Why wouldn't we be able to see what was going on? Because we know that if it weren't for cameras, many of the stories that the police officers have told us over the decades that have been proven lies would still have stood. The reason that they have those cameras is because there's a lack of trust between the community and the police department, and people have said this is a way of being transparent. Why didn't you do that? And why do we have to give you the benefit of the doubt when so many times it's been different? I cannot tell you that I know what happened here. I cannot tell you that I know the facts, but I do know this. The more things change, the more they stay the same. I know that this young man is dead, and he'll get deader by the day, because people will continue to deride him and to destroy this man to make themselves look innocent, to make them look innocent instead of him. They'll do everything they can to make sure that we know that even though if he wasn't wrong that time, if he wasn't doing anything that time, that bullet found the right person. Maybe they didn't catch him doing anything, but that was the right guy. He deserved it. Because there's never been a black man murdered at the hands of the police in the United States of America where somehow, some way, they don't try to prove that that man was guilty of something and he deserved it. Now, I don't know what happened in this particular case. I don't know all the facts, but one thing's for sure, I damn sure know that. That's a little note from the GED section. We got a jazz report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.